Now, Sports Talk with Broads. Here's Hunter Brody.
Ugly game of baseball down in Miami. Am I surprised? Unfortunately, once again, I am not surprised by the disaster. 7-1. 7-1 annihilation. Zach Eflin murdered, basically. The ball was barreled up all night long off Zach Eflin, putting pitches right over the heart of the plate. So I'm watching doubles to start the game. I'm watching Jazz smoke it to right field. They're scoring a bunch of runs, and basically you feel you have no chance once you go down the way that you do. And it's just disappointing, right? 4-0, 5-0. Oh my, please stop the pain. This is a disaster. Now, I constantly get these thoughts, or at least I should say, I constantly get these comments, these questions, these concerns. Broads, when are you going to finally feel like this is it? When are you going to finally feel like the Phillies are just a bad baseball team? Not after 8 games, morons. I'm just being honest with you. Not after 8 games. I did a little research. I looked around a little bit. The 2021 Braves, who happened to win a World Series, they were 7-10 in their first 17 games. They were 37-41. They were 30-35 after 65 baseball games. Let's look at the 2019 Nationals, shall we? 16-25, 27-33, 21-31. Did anyone in the world believe at any point in that time frame that those squads were going to do what they accomplished? That doesn't mean I'm telling you the Phillies are going to go win a world championship and bring home a World Series. But the reaction to this offense sucks. This offense is pathetic. We overvalued everything. They are never going to win anything. They are the worst team I've ever seen be assembled. I don't feel that way whatsoever. They're playing ugly ball. They have to change. Pick it the hell up. All right, it's time to turn the page here. Come on, let's go. Kyle Schwarber 0 for 5. Unacceptable. Although he really should have been 1 for 5. He got robbed big time over at second base. That ball was scorched. I thought it could have rolled maybe all the way to the right field wall and scored from first base because they did have a base runner on at first base at that point. Maybe, just maybe, if it went past, it was possible that they produced in that moment. But still, he's hitting on the season 0.94. That can't get the job done whatsoever. I know that there's so much reaction to Joe Girardi being an idiot, apparently. No. Well, how come he's not playing Bohm? Because Bohm stinks defensively. Bohm ruins games defensively. Well, what about his bat? He's hitting very well. He even had a pinch hit today. You're not wrong with that assessment. But you're also facing righties. He'll play when you see a lefty. That's how baseball works. That's how this gets going. Now, well, we got a hit against a righty before. All right, I understand. But stop screaming as if the difference in this team not getting blown out 7-1 was because Joe Girardi didn't put Alec Bohm on the field. Do you remember the last time you legitimately saw Alec Bohm on the field? I mean, please, stop it. And with JT Realmuto coming off of a 4-hit day, I know it's not your job to think ahead, and it's not your job specifically as a fan to study the schedule and think about when JT Realmuto should and shouldn't play. But he played that day game against the Mets, and I was a little shocked by that. I thought that was a no-brainer Stubbs day. It wasn't a no-brainer Stubbs day. They played JT. But when that happens, you need to realize that there's a cause and an effect when that's the case. So, off day, probably tomorrow. off day today, will be in the lineup tomorrow due to a lefty in Rogers on the mound. Makes a lot of sense to me. And this in the fourth straight game, he'll play Saturday through Tuesday, which is 4 more straight games. At some point, you have to give JT Realmuto up. Well, what about the DH? Well, Schwarber, Castellanos. There's a lot of guys here they have to figure out on how to make it happen. Well, take Schwarber out. He stinks. He's a lefty bat going up against a righty today as a starter. The logic to making the lineup the way that it was today made perfect sense. According to some fans, the Phillies right now are 3-5 through 8 games? Apparently, Joe Girardi has his fingerprints on all 5 losses. I mean, it's getting outrageous that every single game, every single lineup, every single decision is, well, Joe Girardi's a dope and he's the reason why you lost this game because Bohm wasn't here or because JT wasn't there. Well, JT played yesterday and what happened? They lost the baseball game. He had 4 hits and they lost. I hate to break it to you, but it's not as much of a fingerprint as you think it is with these 5 losses so far on the start of the season with Joe. That doesn't mean Joe never has his problems or never has his flaws or never has his bad decisions. I've criticized him when he went up and down with Sir Anthony Dominguez in that Mets series. Or was that Mets series or was it one of the Marlins games? Was it the Mets series or the Marlins game? Oh, it was the Mets game. It was the game that I went to on Wednesday afternoon. He came in, he got out of the jam, and then they put him back in. I don't like that. I don't think that he's that style of guy. They went with Nick Nelson today trying to do what he did last time, which was go 4 innings. He was electric the last time he gave him the nod. Not that they were trying to get 4 innings out of him again. I'm just saying they went back to him. He got screwed. Big time pitch. Corner of the plate. Not called. Now, 1-2 count goes to a 2-1 count. Double for the Marlins. They tack on more runs. It just stings big time. I'm even hearing that Didi Gregorius is a terrible ball player and Joe Girardi's an idiot for putting him in. What are we talking about? He's honestly, right now, your best left-handed bat in your lineup. Bryce Harper went 0 for 4. He's been struggling. We know about Schwarber hitting under 100. Didi Gregorius against a righty today made a lot of sense to be in the lineup. I get you're frustrated. I get you're bothered. I'm bothered, and I'm not happy with the performances we have seen. But I'm also not going to go overboard. I'm the perfect level of I am getting, frustrated. I'm the perfect level of, 7-1? 7-1 in Miami? But it's almost like because I have to tone down people who are going so extreme that maybe I'm not properly being able to assert my thoughts on what's going on as much as maybe I would like because I have to focus on making sure that it's not going to an obnoxious level and really, just taking it to the nth degree when it doesn't necessarily need to do that as a whole. We have a $5 donation in the chat coming in from Lance. Thank you, Broads, for being a voice of reason. Phillies will start hitting eventually. Still pitching, defense, and timely hitting wins chips. Well, I mean, in terms of winning a championship, I don't even have that thought right now in my process. It's April. It's the middle of April. In terms of championships, this and that, we got to find what this team is going to be about. And right now, it seems to be that there's been this team, and not just the Phillies, but in general around the sport of baseball, there's been players affected by the spring training. You got Clayton Kershaw getting yanked in perfect games because of situations with him and his arm, and dating back to last year and their long-term thoughts. Like, they're a different breed, and they're built differently than the Phillies in terms of chips. Yeah, they think about chips in the offseason because they're in a different spot, and they have arguably one of the deepest lineups I've ever seen in my life, and it feels like MLB The Show when you go on franchise mode, fantasy draft, make some trades, and then get yourself a powerful lineup and an unbelievable set of guys that just doesn't make any sense. That's probably going to mow through every opponent when you sim baseball games and turn into a 130-win team. That's what the Dodgers are. So they're such an outlier. It's time to pick it the hell up, though. The excuse of it's early in times of these guys looking so bad at the plate, it's starting to run thin, for sure. That's not going to be an excuse forever, but after 4 games, I was getting all these thoughts of, Broge, what are you going to say after 10? It's still early? Yes. Yes, I am. Yes, I am. After 10 games, yes, I am still going to say it's early, but I'll still hold them accountable saying that, yo, fellas, let's fucking go. There's a middle ground here, and it's fair to play the middle ground the right way because realistically, logically, that's how this has to be handled. Any true baseball fan sees that. If you're starting to jump now, oh, I'm really worried. What are you really worried about? What are you super insanely worried about? They might have flaws that hurt them more than we anticipated before the season began. But I guarantee you that, 3 months into the season, Kyle Schwarber won't be hitting .094. I guarantee you that Bryce Harper will have a way higher percentage hitting the baseball than he is right now 3 months into the season. And when that happens, organically, the team's just going to be better. In terms of Zach Eflin, he was bad today. And this Zach Eflin won't cut it. 4 innings pitched, 81 pitches, 6 hits, 4 earned runs. We can go back to the first inning and look at the fact that Didi popped up. Maybe could have got a run in. You also had Rhys Hoskins up at one point. He ends up doubling, so he's on second base. Castellanos, Harper, Didi. Top of your lineup. Can't come up with a timely hit. So that stung. Wasn't the difference in winning or losing this game by any means because they didn't have enough regardless. Still situations, though, that I can at least see a trend in the right direction. I could see steps happening that at least satisfy me a little bit more because those are the situations where those at-bats have to be a lot more structured than they have been. A few things that stood out to me, some center field play, good reads on the ball, tracking it down beautifully, running to the wall. How about a cannon to second base to get out Aguilar early on? Also, first MLB hit. So I like what we're seeing out of the center field position. And, of course, Nick Castellanos with an opposite field homer. He has put together strong ABs himself on an individual basis. I thought Rhys Hoskins, 2 hits. There's some positives there all along. But, yeah, I mean, you look at some things that just happened today. Another pitch that I just thought dictated a lot. And that's the nature of the game, right? These umpires behind the plate. Once again, not the difference in the outcome, but there's a huge misblown call on the outside part of the plate where Nelson delivers it beautifully, and it's a 2-1 count instead of a 1-2 count. And that sparked a big-time, massive little how-do-you-do by the Miami Marlins that tacked on more and just put the dagger in the hearts of the Phillies. And you could see in their body language, you could see in their facial expressions. I saw a couple times Bryce Harper close to screen, and, it just didn't look good. It didn't look good at all, and they somewhat knew, we're not going to get this one, fellas. Well, let's go, because there's 2 games left. And at this point, unfortunately, I'd be super pumped with the split in the 4-game set. Do I feel confident about it? No, not really. At this point, 1-3 is almost like what my reasonable expectations are, which is not good. Not good at all. But if I'm being honest with myself, the way that they've been playing, I don't know what it's going to take for them to snap out of it. Getting out of Miami? I forget who it was. Maybe it was Matt Gelb. Let me see if it was Matt Gelb or not, who tweeted out the difference in the Miami Marlins against the Phillies and against a lot of other teams. It was not. But they are now 13-24 at Marlins Park since 2018. It hasn't been the greatest week. The Phillies are 3-5. Let me see. Marlins hitting against the Phillies. I don't know exactly who tweeted it out. I'm kind of just searching on Twitter, but doesn't seem like it's popping up as quickly as I would like. Regardless, we'll go to the phones if you want to call in. 856-442-9805. Let's bring in our first caller of the night. Yo, what's going on? You're on Broge Media.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. What's up, man?
So I remember last year I was on the way to the Mets game and I heard a quote on WIP, or I heard it from you, I don't remember. But it was Cole Hamels, and he basically said, when I would get onto the pitching mound, I would feel no pressure because I knew that I had an offense behind me that would pick me up whenever I would fall. The Phillies need to get to that point where the pitchers have no pressure on them when they're pitching because they know, as soon as we get to the bottom of the inning or as soon as our offense gets up, we're going to light them up. You know what I'm saying?
I don't disagree with that, but do you feel the reason why Zach Eflin suffered today was because he didn't feel confidence in his offense or because he just didn't have it tonight?
I don't think he had. I think he didn't have it, but I also think it's because of the injury and because you know how he came off. Was it a knee injury? I'm not.
Yeah, he did have himself a little bit of a different spring training. We saw the stories of how emotional he was when he was able to throw for the first time. So that definitely plays a role in the Zach Eflin story. But yeah, I mean, your premise is correct for a longer term is you know that your offense is going to mash. But for as down as we are right now, there's going to be a lot of moments this season where we're feeling an extreme high. We could even use last year as an example. We were so disappointed so many times, but think about the way we felt after sweeping the Mets, Zach Wheeler complete game. We were on another level with our feelings. That's how baseball goes. You start out 3-5 in your first 8. No one's happy. No one's jumping up for joy. But really, we're going to the point where this team's never going to do anything and they're a complete joke and the worst offense in baseball. We got to find this middle ground. That's all.
Yeah, I got you. I understand.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it, man. I appreciate your phone call. But yeah, I think that's kind of where we're at as I'm still trying to dive for. Oh, Corey Seidman was the one that tweeted it out according to the YouTube live stream. Let's see. Yes, Marlins versus the Phillies. Last 3 seasons, slashing 252, 323, 409. The Marlins versus everyone else in the last 3 seasons, 233, 301, 370. It would be nice for them to put this to rest, but it seems mentally and obviously physically, but it starts mentally, that they cannot get past this hurdle of this logo and this team in their division. It's gone on way too long. I understand maybe 1 year, 2 years of some underachieving baseball against a team that you should beat. That's sports. Oh, man, they just can't get by them. Oh, man, it's their kryptonite. It's starting to bleed into a territory that's wild, all right? That it's so hard to even describe, and it's hard to get down to the bits and pieces of it all, where it just reaches the anger level, and it's multiplied by 8,000 because, all right, I mean, really? I mean, really? 7-1? You got bent over and smacked on your ass by a wooden spoon as if it's Grandma Jean to me when I was 5, right? When I'm 5, I'm getting beat with a wooden spoon over the tush. All right, I got soap in my mouth because I was saying things I shouldn't have said. This is what's going on right now with the Phils to this gross Miami Marlins team. It's crazy. How? How is it happening to this level? Crazy. What do you got, Amadeo? What's up, man?
That was a fantastic reference, by the way, how you described that game.
Yeah, I mean, when I was younger, got the wooden spoon to the tush. See, back in the day, that kind of stuff used to be acceptable.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. But a little bit different of the way I'm approaching this because, yes, this game was just completely awful. But, like, even going back to your previous points when you started the show, like how previous other teams like the Nationals, the Braves last year, how they started off really slow, and then they eventually got hot as the season went along, and they eventually did what they did. I also did a little research on previous Phillies teams. Specifically, I'm not trying to compare these two Phillies teams. Completely different scenarios. But the 2007 Phillies team, how long was that playoff drought when they finally got over the hump? What was it, like a 14-year playoff drought since 93 or something like that?
It wasn't pretty.
Right about that? Yeah, so 2007, that month of April, ugly. 25 games, they were 11-14. Their first 10 games, 2-8. And then look what happened the rest of the season. They finally got over the hump and made the playoffs. I'm trying to say I'm not trying to say people can't be frustrated, But I think hitting the panic button is maybe going a little bit overboard at this point because it's trying to say this team's going to get better. As they're not going to be this bad for this long.
I agree. They have too much talent, and I think that's a great reference, Amadeo, to bring up what happened with the Phillies previously throughout their tenures and throughout the teams that we have that emotional tie to, the teams that we love and adore, and we look at as the greatest run we've ever seen in arguably Philadelphia sports. They actually won the title. I loved what Donovan McNabb and Andy Reid did, NFC Championship, Super Bowl, right? You did your thing and constantly were in the mix. This Phillies team, though, they accomplished their goal. They got back in 2009, probably should have been able to snag 2, didn't. But the fact that you bring up how awful and bad it was in those early stages of that 2017, which somewhat sparked everything and created that history that we love so much, it's a perfect description, just like I mentioned with the Braves. So just to lay it back out there, the Braves last year started out 7-10, then they were 30-35, 37-41. They didn't know what to do. Freddie Freeman was barely hitting over 200. Ronald Acuna Jr. went down. They bought at the deadline when everyone thought, what are you doing? Why would you buy at the deadline? Now it's probably time to sell, somewhat regroup, and then manage your team in a different kind of direction with a different mindset next year when you can get some of your pieces back and maybe Freddie Freeman can get hot. And, Freddie Freeman eventually did obviously snowball into a magnificent player, but there were some early parts to that season where he was the worst Freddie Freeman I could remember in quite some time. They bought at the deadline. People were confused, and it's probably because the Braves smelled that the Phillies were fake, smelled that the Mets were fake, and realized that there was a real chance to still win this division, and then they eventually did with about 88 wins. The Nationals, 21-31 after 52 games. These are teams that won the World Series. I don't even have that in my vision. I have making the playoffs in my vision. So if we're lowering the bar, and I'm not demanding them to go win a World Series this year, but these are teams that did it all. They got to the promised land. They were holding what Rob Manfred calls just a piece of metal when it was all said and done. Just cool the jets a little bit, but be mad. I don't think it's that hard to do both. Be mad without calling it the biggest disaster, and Joe Girardi has no idea how to manage a game. If you watch these games and your conclusion is the reason why you're losing is Joe and it's not the players, well then holy hell, God bless your soul. Schwarber's hitting under 100. Well then move him. Where do you want him out of the lineup? The big pieces that were signed to the franchise, you're just not going to play for an Alec Boehm. I'm just saying who other people want in the lineup right now. Alec Boehm is a name that people want in the lineup. What do you want to do? Let me know. You're going to bench guys that are professionals and have been in the major leagues for years and years and years and years with a ton of success for years and years and years and years. You just want to get rid of them? I'm not against trying different lineups, and I bet you at some point that's going to occur. You didn't lose 7-1 because Joe elected to put Kyle Schwarber in the leadoff spot. That wasn't why you lost this game the way that you did. And by the way, you're acting as if there's a billion leadoff options on this team that Joe is just overlooking. You didn't have any. And then you thought, oh, you could put Kyle Schwarber in there. You don't have any. You have things that you could try, but don't sit here and act as if there is a no-brainer lock that Joe just thinks, nah, no thank you. When you brought in Kyle Schwarber, the consensus was you got your leadoff guy. You're going to wait for Odubel to come back? Is that what you're thinking? I want nothing to do with that. So please, that doesn't mean other things might not work for a amount of time better than what Schwarber is giving you. And then when Schwarber gets going again and starts roping the baseball, then maybe you can find ways to see if there's something that could work up at the top again. But please, craziness. Absolute craziness. All right, that was kind of what today was all about for me. A little bit of a quick hitter. Sometimes that's going to happen this season. Friday night, I'm exhausted. I'm definitely defeated. You can hear me tomorrow morning with Tyrone Johnson, 9 a.m. to noon on The Fanatic. We're talking Sixers hoops. Sixers playoffs tomorrow. The way I have this going in my mind, We have Sixers tomorrow night, Phillies as well, and then the Phillies on Sunday. I may, and this is all based off of feel, but I may package up Saturday and Sunday Phillies games into one show Sunday night. So, because obviously it's a big Sixers night, we'll have post-game reaction on the Sixers after the game. I may, once again, it depends on feel, but I may package Saturday and Sunday up for a Sunday Philly show and then speak about the Sixers solo tomorrow night. But we'll see how everything kind of shapes up. With that, thank you guys so much for hanging out with me tonight. Those are my thoughts on what the hell just happened in Miami. Catch you guys tomorrow.